Next up, we have Miss Evita Francis, who will be giving us a presentation on navigating uncharted waters and building resistance. So please join me in welcoming her to the stage.
Good afternoon, everyone. I hope you're all doing good after an amazing panel discussion on risk. So we at Marsh Advisory support our clients across the various industries. We've been here for the last 150 years. We work across the globe, across 170 countries. Our main purpose is about how do we strengthen industries, business ecosystems, and our clients in thriving, building resilience, and withstanding the unexpected. Every year we partner with the World Economic Forum to identify top key risks across the world, work with industry leaders to look at how do we resolve it as a team. Now, this year has been our 19th year with the World Economic Forum, and one of the key questions that we ask, and we asked this to a panel of 11,000 company executives across the world, 1,500 global risk experts, government officials, and understanding what are the key risks. One of the first questions that we ask them is, how do they view the world? How do they look at the outlook of risk in the near term, that's in the near 2 years time frame, and in 10 years time frame, the long term? If you look at the results, I think one thing that came out very on the face is we expect, I think especially risk experts expect that the near term and the long term, it's going to be turbulent, unstable, we foresee, and that's maybe a norm than unusual, than expecting it to be unexpected. So that was something I think this year, it showed a different perspective of how the world, how the global risk experts view risk in the near term and short term. That means we as risk experts expect risk to happen, expect the unexpected, and that's more become of a norm. Now, the entire risk landscape that we asked our team, we asked the experts as well as what are the top 5 risks across the countries? And these risks are not isolated. We cannot view a risk as a single risk, a single dimension. It is very interconnected. It's a mesh of key risks. Now, with these key risks that we see, the top 5 risks that comes out, the first and foremost this year with AI, talking about every country is talking about AI, technology companies are talking about investment in AI, businesses are looking at how do they invest in AI for productivity and information. But one of the top risks that came out is misinformation and disinformation that may be caused due to AI. This year, more than 30-odd countries are going through elections, and with elections comes in a lot of false information, propaganda. So one of the key challenges that we see as across the world about having the right information, how do we manage false information, how does the truth being defined and being known to the population to make the right decisions, how do we manage mistrust in elections and ensure there's no societal divide. Secondly, we see, of course, extreme weather. We ourselves in the Middle East, especially in Dubai, in Riyadh, even in Kenya with the recent floods, we see environmental risks taking precedence. There's a lot of societal polarization that we see a rise across the years. And cyber insecurity. Now, as cyber professionals and security professionals, we know cyber risk is one of the key risks for our business. But across the world, this is the first time across most of the countries have identified cyber insecurity as the top 5 risk, not the top 10 risk. It's the first time it comes into the first top 5 risks across the world. Now, if you look at the near-term and the long-term aspects, so yes, we spoke about misinformation, disinformation. We spoke about right now about extreme weather conditions. Now, overall, if you look at the way we are moving forward, environmental risks and technology risk takes precedence. We've seen in the past about more of economic risk. Yes, economic risk in downturns, organizations and countries are trying to stabilize inflation, manage economic growth, GDP and information. But we foresee, of course, the environmental risk and technology taking precedence. Cyber insecurity over the long-term period, cyber insecurity with measures taken at the national level and with the organizations, maybe a decline and from the top 5 to top 7, but it still stays on. Now, with the key challenges that we see overall, as I mentioned, first is the environmental challenges. Second is, of course, the technology challenges that the organizations are facing. Economic challenges with inflation, with longevity of population, and obviously the societal challenges overall. Go back on the slide. But environmental risk, now we most likely, most of the countries, not all, because there are certain Scandinavian countries are taking a lot of precautions and measures at the national level and organizations, but we might most likely will be breaching the thresholds of the 3 degrees centigrade point in the next decade or so. Now, with this, obviously, there are a lot of unintended consequences. We may foresee migration. We may see a risk across environmental and society at large. Second, of course, is the AI. AI is here to stay. It is a trend. I remember 10 years or 15 years ago, the mobile phones that we had was not the smart mobile phones. It was very Android, with just numbers to call in, but now it's got smart. So, of course, AI is here to stay. It is a concern. Governments are talking about national security concerns. How do they manage information? How do they ensure that there are a lot of guardrails in place? So they do acknowledge there's a lot of weak guardrails right now across the world. But organizations are seeing a lot of value add. That's what they foresee in productivity, in decision making, and how do they actually come up with new products and services. So AI is going to be there. It's going to stay, and we will see a lot of government and international organizations coming together to manage this risk, also to ensure that the organizations and governments are able to thrive as well. On the economic side, I think over here, as I mentioned, we do see a risk of a downturn for some countries, a slowdown for some of the developing countries, inflation, yes, organizations, even countries and European Union and many of the geographies are working towards managing that economic slowdown and downturn. One of the major concerns, apart from the economic, is how do they manage longevity of population? How do they actually ensure that they're able to stabilize, meet the demographic needs, and ensure that the organization, the countries, both for developing countries and the developed countries, have the right talent, technology, and policies in place. Now, this is something, though it's been a risk, this is something organizations and industry forums are coming together to manage this risk. Now, obviously, there are enablers right now to manage the new markets. We see crime, interstate conflict, geopolitical tensions on a rise on a short-term basis, but organizations and the countries are taking steps forward, inclusive of the GCC and the Middle East, taking steps forward to manage this risk appropriately as well. Now, this is what the world says. This is what the global risk experts spoke about. How do we manage these key risks? Now, the top 3 takeaways that we see overall is, one is, a risk cannot be managed at the global level by one stakeholder. It requires multi-stakeholder engagements across levels, across industry ecosystems to manage this risk. Secondly, we see a lot of national and international organizations coming together with policies and regulations to manage this risk. Third is the most important aspect is public awareness and education, where organizations, more of their social empowerment programs and awareness, and along with the national government policies, is making public more aware of managing this risk, managing this as an opportunity for them to thrive, because risk is going to be there. How do we manage this risk? How do we respond to risk? How do we navigate and ensure that this risk becomes an opportunity for the population, for organizations to survive and thrive? I think that's one of the key takeaways that we have right now from the Global Risk Report that I'd like to share. Thank you, and have a great day.